everybody's arriving at the same place where Walter Russell was. That thought is the viscosity of light. Thought creates the first boundary limit for light. Light expands at infinite seconds squared. It occupies every space immediately with no time difference at all, but it has a limit, and that limit is set by the velocity of the outside, the resistance against which it slows, and that is thought. And so thought is one spherical around the center of the universe, the expanding universe, the Earth, time particle, center, twisting dipole, two-dimensional, three-dimensional sphere. Earth, first thought, one spherical. The bound is set for expansion, and it's a whole complete sphere, a membrane constructed from pure thought. Can you see it? It glows with a bright white light. If you can stand outside it, you would see it glowing with a bright white light. A ball, perfection. Massive. Massive. And what does that do? It has a reaction inside, equal and opposite reaction. Mass accelerating equals force. So the viscosity of thought is mass. It's the first mass. Creates mass accelerating in vector. So it's not decelerating. The infinite acceleration, remember, the acceleration is in pure vector. At the surface, take a particle, a sphere, and turn it through a 720 twist, rotate it, and you have inverted the surface. And that's viscosity. And that takes a duration. You have to stretch the time because of to accommodate the mass that's been created, to create the Newton. The kilogram meters per second squared. The Newton, there's the kilogram arriving as just force of bending, because it's a sphere, the one. Inside, memory. The object remembers that it is a sphere at the center. It came from the center. It remembers. The Action Lab experiment with color, where you have color self-sorts. When you add a material to the water, to the color supplement, the food dye, different color food dyes, add something to it to make it vaporize at the edges, so that it has a meniscus underneath it. It floats. The water will be underneath. You created a pressure up, you get vapor, and you create the pressure down, you get meniscus, slidey. So it's a really slidey surface. And the colors move together. The bodies move together. They remember they're one body. How? Because the water vapor has entered the negative space. And once it's entered the negative space is the one. So that the fragmentation that occurs of light, this object becomes solid body, instant. Yeah, the instant of the rigid body moment. There is a clamping motion. So take rest time and imagine a beginning of time, which there isn't one. Tiny dot of light, two-dimensional rotating yin-yang of force, tiny dot of light. The Lord parts the waters. A huge sphere grows instantly, a glowing bright white light, and then slows the tiniest amount, bearing in mind the power of the acceleration, and it fractures. And it fractures because it's made of glass, plasma lensing. So just imagine the rigid body instant, so fast that it doesn't actually exist, where the clamping motion of the sphere of the thought, the one thought of the outside clamps down. It creates an aggregate assemblage of glass fragments separated by negative space, negative tension. The compressive force that's created to keep each particle separate from the particle next to it is stretching of time, stretching of water. The water itself stretches to accommodate the stretching of time, and therefore it cavitates at the center. But it doesn't fully cavitate, it half cavitates. You get a half bowl of water, a half bowl of cavitation. And then that top cavitation, the meniscus that's built up around the top, is made of light. It has no mass relative to the center. Yeah? So it has mass relative to itself, but it has no mass relative to the center. And so it remembers that. And so it twists as a hemisphere. So the top, the meniscus of the cavitation over the firmament twists. And so it becomes a rotating. It starts to rotate because of the action of twisting of it, falling and twisting. It twists as it falls from the top. It twists to a hemisphere and creates a vortex axis, a vector axis, pocket vortex. It's created, North Pole, which tries to follow the magnetic North Pole, the true north of the one body, which has a magnetic, because it is affected by this twisting of the force like that. And the force that it is experiencing is temperature. And that's the cosmic microwave background that we see, the hemisphere. So that the hemisphere of the CMB that we observe is the light. The force that has created the whole sphere is the temperature of the hemisphere at the top. The bottom is just one temperature, a homogeneous zone of temperature. The top is multitude temperature, and it falls like that. And so now this temperature from the top is now in the bath of the cold underneath. It's in there and it's powered from the top. And so it's warm body. And the warm body exists at the center of the planet as the time particle where a piece of protein lives. A negative space is created in the shape of the little baby underneath Thoth's beak, and that's the warm body. Reinforced concrete slows the planet by stopping the vibration that keeps the warm body warm. So the power of all this rotation, suddenly, if you stop the expansion rate of the planet, Earth, and the meniscus around it, corrupt the climate through this, stopping the planet expanding through reinforced concrete, which takes the buzz of the planet, of H of Planck's constant, the buzz, and traps it, steps it shut in reinforced concrete, linking together anything that's underneath that area. That zone is no longer expanding. So the more reinforced concrete you have on the planet, the slower it goes. And the worse the condition of the time particle gets, and the warm body begins to cool. It's negative rate. So it's got acceleration. Its heat is increasing, but the rate of that increase is decreasing. It's a decelerating rate of acceleration of heat. Entropic heat is caused here. So as soon as we knock down all the reinforced concrete and the planet begins to buzz properly, and the tectonic plates reform to where they should be, the crust and the elastica, the expansion zone moves back to the center. We split the golden ratio back to 0.618. The elastica goes back to the center around the inner core. The inner core, then the small inner core, and the disks are created at the center of the inner core, and the planet goes to flat and unfurls like a petal, like that. And the North Pole goes back to the center and all reassembles. And I believe if we let the planet purely settle, over time it would settle into a yin-yang pattern. We'd be the baby. The land and the ocean would be a baby swimming around each other on the pool that we create from the land itself. That's the future. That's the thought that I've carried into this memory. So Giza and Paul, the discussion that you're having is this idea of the viscosity of light is thought, creating a negative, like a meniscus, absolutely tiny in the ether, which exists everywhere. It's a negative framework that remembers what it was doing previously and continues to do it unless it's been interrupted or measured. Can you see it? Can you see it? All our stories uniting around this. It's just the place where memory lives, is the fabric of negative spaces, the meniscus of consciousness, of the one sphere, trying to tell us a story. And I believe it's telling us our story. And that Dr. Victor Levy is my bit I'm going to tell that proves that science already fucking knows this. And that all the complication that they give us is deliberate to hide us from the truth of the simplicity of this idea. Tesla's day is here. Walter Russell's day is here. The cranks, the crackpots, and the retired engineers save the fucking day. The sooner this information comes out, the better. because Atlas is going to appear heading straight for us December the 18th. The faster we've reacted now to set the planet on love, following Christ, one love, one God, one morality, self-police, planet of excellence, start now, sexual behaviour, impeccable, no more sex until the end. The party at the end of the universe. Ready? My friends, I believe this is true, and I've placed that story there. Welcome to the future. Follow the Rebel King.